How
are you?
Good to see you, Jay.
So you got your son running the gig here now?
Thank goodness, somebody's ready to do it.
And you're sitting by the beach with a mint julep or something?
I am.
Yes.
Just don't tell anybody.
Well, I must admit, you were always one of my heroes when I was a kid because, A, New England. There wasn't a lot in New England. And you were modifying American cars, which I liked at the time, like the Corvette. But you guys do everything now. Mustang, what, BMW, everything, right?
Actually, you know, this is our 40th year.
Right.
Since going into business.
Right.
It's our 30th year of being the world's smallest specialist dealing with the world's largest car corporation. So 30 years of working with GM.
Yeah.
You know, they hired us to do this in 1987.
Oh, is that right?
They did. And here we are standing here 30 years later. That's been a very interesting journey.
Right, right. No, it's really fantastic. And as I was saying, the one that really I thought was fascinating was the turbocharged, keep saying supercharged, the turbocharged Alfa Romeo. Where did the impetus come for that? What were you thinking? Did somebody say, hey, I want you to turbocharge this for me, or did it emanate with you guys?
Were you working at Gus Andre?
No, I used to work at Foreign Motors in Boston.
Foreign Motors West.
Yeah, Foreign Motors West and Foreign Motors in Boston.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it was an Alfa dealer, right? Or were they?
No, we weren't Alfa. We were foreign cars.
Okay.
We had Peugeot, Bentley, Mercedes-Benz, Citroën, and a kit car called the Squire. we had every kind of oddball
equal
farm,
opportunity.
but we didn't have Alfa Romeo. But you know, back in the day, that's what it was. You were just a foreign car dealership because nobody sold enough.
Exactly.
You know, European cars. You had to have 3 or 4 different marks on the floor.
So here's what happened. Do you remember the Maserati B-Turbo?
Yes, sadly.
Yeah, sadly.
The only good thing about it was the clock. It had a beautiful clock on the dashboard. When the rest of the car wasn't running, you could watch that.
Well, these poor guys were the newcomer into America at that point, and Alfa was getting their lunch eaten by Maserati B-Turbo sales.
Right.
And Alfa called us and said, can we make a quickly turbocharged version of our car that will perform as well or better than the Maserati B-Turbo? So 12 months later, together, we both rolled out this specialist production version of the GTV6, and lo and behold, it was quick.
Yeah.
It stayed in one piece, and Alfa was poised to do well in America. You know what happened then?
They left the country.
They left the country.
Yeah. Were they? was that a fuel-injected car?
Yeah.
Because I remember the bi-turbo was carbureted, right?
Exactly.
And it was just the stupidest.
It was awful.
Oh, it was a horrible car. Had this beautiful leather interior and this beautiful clock in the dashboard. Everybody marked about what a nice clock it was. It was very detailed, you know. But that was the only thing that was running.
That's so you could time the tow truck when he was on the way.
Yeah, you could hear the clock running because the engine wasn't. So when you're stuck by the side of the road, you could hear, it's very interesting to hear that. I mean, that probably did more to ruin Maserati's reputation in America.
Yeah.
Than almost anything.
It took them 30 years to recover.
Oh, just unreliable. And they sold a bunch, and then in the first year, you could get them for, God, 10 cents on the dollar.
Yep.
I mean, you couldn't give them away. They couldn't meet emissions. They were running too lean. I mean, it's crazy.
I'm glad you brought up the point, though, because Alfa, in a way, is responsible for Callaway and Corvette.
Yeah.
Here's how it worked. We produced the first 30 cars for Alfa.
Right.
They went out the door to great review. Alfa went home, closed the door, and forever left the United States until today.
Yeah.
One of those Alfas wound up in the General Motors Proving Grounds war room as a sample car.
Right.
And based on a little 2.5-liter, 250 horsepower, 2,800-pound sedan with front engine and rear gearbox, the guys at Corvette called us and said, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Because it was emission compliant and it was quick.
Right.
And they said, would you be interested in doing some turbocharging work on the Corvette?
Oh, that's fascinating. See, I just assumed a guy bought one of these, didn't like the power, brought it to you, and it was an Old Lyme, Connecticut.
Old Lyme, Connecticut.
You guys put a turbocharger in it, and boom, and sent him on his way. I didn't realize this whole backstory. That's fascinating.
You know, our objective was always to try to get that relationship, to be a specialist for a brand. You know, like all of the other great specialist cars that you've got here.
Yeah.
You know, an Abarth to a Fiat,
right,
or a Lister to a Jet.
Well, let's show what we're talking about. Well, that's very cool. That's a great history lesson. So now
So
you,
thank God for
yeah,
Alfa.
yeah. Have you still got one of those?
No.
Oh, so they only did 30 cars.
Yeah.
How many of them are still around? Do you hear from the owners? Or are they-
Probably about 29 of them.
Yeah, yeah. It was the V6, but that was a good motor too.
It
Wasn't
was a great motor.
Yeah, yeah,
We were scared to death
Yeah.
that the motors would fail.
yeah.
And they said, why don't you run our durability dyno test? It's called the Autostrada del Sol,
Oh, okay.
which is the highway that goes from Rome to Milan.
Right.
And after running that dyno test and using up several thousand gallons worth of gasoline,
Yeah.
the motors were fine.
Wow.
And we said, wow, that's a surprise.
Well, pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Well, that's a great history lesson.